Hi there, and welcome back to the Greater Good video course on how to become a social entrepreneur. This is episode 3, Crafting Your Story. So, once you've established a clear vision for your venture, you're going to need to hone your idea so that you can clearly articulate it to other people. Madeline, you've been called a serial entrepreneur, so you've gone through this process a lot. What are your top tips for effective storytelling?
Oh, yes, yes. I love storytelling and using the word story as opposed to the word pitch, I think is a lot more accessible. It makes more sense to us. So often in business vernacular, we talk about pitching and it's constructed as this really fast kind of pressure filled thing. And I'm happy to speak to the mechanics of doing that a little bit later, but as in terms of the bigger picture, story is really that. So what we are seeking to do is create an emotional connection with whoever is listening to us. So I can't stress that strongly enough. We're not trying to convince someone of something. We are engaging them emotionally so that they can find themselves in our vision, right? And so that's the number one is just kind of the mindset as we come into this. So important elements of this are where did this vision come from? Like what's at stake here? What matters? Um, and conveying that sort of succinctly. I often start off when I'm doing this is starting with a question, saying, have you ever, or um, what was a certain type of experience like for you, or that type of thing, to really engage someone, like allow them to feel like they're part of it. It's a conversation. It isn't just I talk, you listen. This is really important because you need to be able to get feedback. You need to be able to, for someone to be able to respond. At any great story has a good, solid, starting point, middle, and end. So you do want to keep it relatively brief. Stick to what are you trying to create, why are you creating it, and then vitally at the end, and this is incredibly important. What are you looking for? I see a lot of entrepreneurs, and they get through the first and the second part, no problem, and and that's great. And then they forget to ask. If someone is listening to you and you've actually successfully achieved that emotional connection, um, what do you want to do with that? Someone is going to want to help in some way, shape, or form, and you're going to need help in some way, shape, or form. So really think that through. And whether that's as simple as like, hey, I'm looking for feedback on this idea, or I need people to fill out the survey so I can learn more about this thing, or I'm looking for donors or investors, or whatever that is, be ready with that. And yeah, so those are the basics of telling a good story.
Yeah, so the whole question of asking for what you need is really central to this. And to that end, I would really love for you to tell me a little bit about like pitch deck. What about pitch decks or data points or presentations, that sort of thing? What do you really need to have ready in order to pitch your venture?
Yeah, exactly. So basically you're going to take that story and you're going to express it in a bunch of different shapes. So the primary one is just that literally me to you at, it could be under any circumstance. It could be at a bus stop, it could be at a cocktail party, it could be any circumstance. So it's this verbal conversation that you are having with someone. From there, you're gonna, yes, a pitch deck or presentation deck that is made in, PowerPoint or Google Slides or whatever, where you're adding in images, is an essential component. And I can break that down a little bit further. Um, what's called a one-page executive summary, which is a slightly longer version, is a super helpful document. And then, if at all possible, to make something like an audio, rather a video that tells the story of what's going on with your vision and what you're trying to achieve. And so those are really, really, and they don't all have to happen at once. And I know videos can be expensive, or you can shoot your own on your phone, and that's okay too. But the point here is that people who are listening to you have different learning modalities, so they're going to want to hear the story in different ways, and take it at their own pace and so on. But that basic little pitch deck actually is super helpful because you can use it either in a live presentation, or you can download it as a PDF document and attach it to an email. And it allows people to kind of consume the information in their own time. So, and they can go back to it, they can refer to it, whatever. If I'm just listening to you, then I need your attention, right then, and that's when it matters. But something to be able to reflect on in hindsight is really good, kind of like a little calling card. So, in order to create that basic deck, you're going to have information about you, like a brief bio. Who are you? Why are you doing this? What do you do, for a living? The why that we talked about in a previous video, about your vision, about what motivates you, about what is the change that you're trying to seek in the world. If there are other team members, it's important what the model, what we call a business model, whether it's a for-profit or a nonprofit entity or even a project. Like, what's the how of how this is going to be delivered? What, if any, is there a financial model involved in this? So if there needs to be donations, if there needs, to be investment, if there need to be, if you're selling a product, like, how does that all work? Um, and again, what you need, the ask. What are you looking for? And so never forget to close with that. And there are a bunch of other bits and pieces that can show up in there, but again, those are the basics. And if you can find establishing any form of context. So, assume that someone knows nothing. So if I'm talking about, a healthcare app for people with diabetes or something, like, give someone context for that. Like, what is the situation with people with diabetes, and what is, how are they learning about their condition, or whatever that thing is. So give some people a bit of a big picture thing to start off with. And those are the basics.
That's always the part that I wonder about the most, is like how much sort of research or, data, statistics, what about things that will sort of, I don't know, convey the urgency of the situation? Where do you think it's appropriate to focus with your data points?
Yeah, I think it's always good to have one or two to show that you've done your homework, but always find it off-putting when someone leads with that. Like almost like you're trying to shock someone, scare them. That person may have no context for the data that you're giving them. Like, they may have no idea whether, whatever, 90% is nothing, or huge, or whatever. Like, you need to really go back to that story, go back to the emotion. But you do need to demonstrate that you've done your homework. So think of statistics as being sort of a helpful backup, but not the lead story, as impressive or as alarming as they may be, because they may not necessarily be meaningful to someone right out of the gate. And also, the shock value and the scare value, I think, is not as potent as drawing someone in with a positive emotion.
I love that advice. And, it really makes me aware of the fact that when I was starting out in business, I sometimes really got stuck on, like, I don't know how to do this. I don't know, like, what is the correct, right way? What is the template? What are all of the boxes I need to tick? And now what I know is that, I mean, there are certainly, I suppose, wrong ways to do it. You can leave things out or go on too long, but there are many, 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 many right ways to do it, and there's a lot more flexibility to that. So I think just not stymieing yourself on getting hung up on, like, what perfection looks like, and thinking like there's some sort of tried and tested perfect template that you're supposed to follow with these things.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Maggie. And for folks who watch, Shark Tank or Dragon's Den or that type of thing, like, honestly, that's not reality 99% of the time. And really, you don't want to forget what I spoke to a little bit earlier, alluded to, is you want to develop a relationship with someone. So ideally, you're having a conversation with them. You are not just kind of delivering information. So leave space for questions, ask questions of the audience, whoever's listening to you, and engage them in what you're trying to create.
I love it. It's great advice. Thank you so much. Okay, so in our next video, we are going to be talking about how to build all those all important relationships.